They said my bakery was too small. Louisiana, 2 days before the wedding. She baked out of a kitchen the size of a confession booth. No storefront, no logo on a van, no Instagram with 50,000 followers and a ring light. Just her, a commercial oven she'd bought second-hand, and hands that hadn't stopped moving since she was 9 years old, standing on a step stool next to her grandmother in Breaux Bridge, Louisiana, learning that sugar is patient, but only if you are too. Her name was Celestine Thurode, and nobody in the luxury wedding circuit had ever heard of her. Marcus Lefevre had heard of everyone. He was the kind of wedding planner who wore linen in January and called it a choice. His clients were oil money, old money, new money that wanted to look old. He curated experiences. He didn't hire bakers. He commissioned artists. When Celestine called his office, politely, professionally, with a portfolio she'd spent 3 weeks putting together, his assistant called back. Not Marcus, his assistant. Mr. Lefevre appreciates your interest. Unfortunately, your operation isn't quite high-end enough for our clientele. Celestine held the phone for a long moment after the call ended. Then she went back to her oven. The Fontenot-Arsenault wedding was supposed to be the event of the season. 400 guests, a plantation-style venue outside Lafayette, a budget that would make most people dizzy, and a cake order, no, a cake installation, 400 individual celebration cakes, each one personalized, each one edible art, arranged across a 40-foot display that Marcus had designed himself. He'd given the contract to Sucre et Sublime, the most talked-about bakery in New Orleans. He'd signed the paperwork in October. The wedding was the first Saturday of April. On Thursday morning, Marcus got a call. Sucre et Sublime was out. A burst pipe had destroyed their production kitchen. 400 cakes gone. The order gone. The contract meaningless. Marcus stood in his office and felt, for the first time in 11 years, something he did not have a word for. Panic is too ordinary. This was bigger than panic. This was the kind of silence that falls right before something collapses. He called everyone. Every bakery in New Orleans, every pastry chef in Baton Rouge, every culinary school, contact he'd collected over a decade of handshakes and business cards. Nobody could do it. Not in 2 days, not 400 cakes, not at this scale. By Thursday evening, he was out of names. His assistant, the same one who'd called Celestine 8 months ago, pulled up the rejected portfolio file, placed it on his desk without a word, and walked out of the room. Marcus stared at it. Then he dialed. Celestine let it ring 4 times. She knew who it was. She didn't know how she knew, she just did. The way you know when a storm is coming before the sky changes color. She picked up. Marcus spoke fast, faster than he'd spoken to anyone in years. He explained everything, the cancellation, the timeline, the 400 cakes. He told her the budget. It was generous, embarrassingly so, compared to what he'd offered Sucre et Sublime. When he finished, there was silence on the line. I can do it, Celestine said. Marcus exhaled so hard he had to sit down. There's one condition, she said. Anything. Full credit, my name on every table card, my name in the program, my name when anyone asks. You don't call them your cakes, you don't call them the venue's cakes. You say Celestine Theroux made them, every single one. Pause. Of course, Marcus said. I need to hear you say you understand. I understand. She hung up and called her cousin Darlene, then her neighbor Miss Patrice, then 3 women from her church who could bake like the Lord himself had trained them. By midnight, her kitchen smelled like heaven was on deadline. They baked through Thursday night and all day Friday. Celestine didn't sleep. She directed the way a conductor directs, quiet, certain, completely in control. Each cake was different. Some were praline and dark chocolate. Some were fig and honey, a recipe so old it had no name. Some were lemon cream with edible gold, pressed into the frosting by hand. 400 cakes. Not one of them looked like it came from a factory. Not one of them looked like it came from fear. They looked like they came from love, which in Louisiana is the same thing as craft. The wedding was on Saturday. The display stopped the room. Guests walked in and went quiet. That particular quiet that happens when people encounter something they weren't prepared for. Something that makes them feel, without knowing why, like they're in the presence of something real. Phones came out, photos were taken. By the time the first toast was made, the images were already moving. By the end of the reception, Celestine Theroux's name had been tagged 1,100 times. By Sunday morning, a food writer from a national magazine had sent her a message. By Monday, she had more orders than she could fulfill for the next 4 months. Marcus Lefevre was at the wedding. He stood near the back of the room and watched people photograph cakes that had come out of a kitchen the size of a confession booth, made by a woman he'd dismissed with a phone call from an assistant. Someone asked him who had made them. He said her name. It was the most important thing he said all evening. And nobody asked him anything else. Celestine Theroux now has a proper kitchen. Not a restaurant, not a franchise, not a brand with a sans serif logo and a PR firm. Just a bigger kitchen in Breaux Bridge, where she grew up. She still bakes the way her grandmother taught her, patient as sugar, steady as heat, never in a hurry to be something she isn't. She never called Marcus back. She didn't have to.